educators, we're teachers, so we know how to be resourceful. So I have two devices because for whatever reason, my Chromebook is not picking up any audio, the mic, so I couldn't talk. So I had to log in from my phone, and so my phone is picking up, and the laptop has the video. So I hope that we get a lot more people to join us, but you know, we are ready to go and being prompt, and people will join as they come along. If not, you know, this is a great group and we'll just have some great conversation. Andre, I would like to introduce. Andre is a longtime educator. He is currently teaching at PS 78 in Stapleton in Staten Island. He is a phenomenal vlogger. So he has a vlog. He also is an author. He has written and published a book. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but just from my relationship and my experience with Andre, I think that he would say his role that he is most proud of is he is a dad, and he is a phenomenal dad. And we're going to spend this time with Andre. He's going to guide us through a conversation about remote learning. This, a lot of us are educators on the call, but this session really has to do with communities and families. So we wanted to create a space outside of the school day where families could express some of the experiences they had and actually get a little bit of guidance from an educator. And you know, it's an open forum, so I'm sure Andre will provide some opportunities for your voices as well. But I do want to say that the reason why we're actually having this is so that our families that are supporting students could express themselves, their triumphs, the things that they need a little bit more help with. If we can pull our resources to help them, we want to be able to do that. And so it's sponsored by the Mothers Against Senseless Killing Staten Island. I'm wearing my shirt. I have to back up. Look, I think got my shirt on as if we were out in the community. So I definitely don't want to spend too much time. I made Andre laugh before we got started. I was thinking that we might want to make this a membership-a-thon. Remember we had the telethons back in the day, Jerry Lewis and such. So we want to make this a membership-a-thon. So if you're not a member of the Facebook group that we have, the Mothers Against Senseless Killing Facebook group, please, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and join. That is the place where we promote free and low-cost activities, and we encourage people to share, and we encourage people to use the resources that we post there. Again, Mothers Against Senseless Killing is an organization. Oh, look how amazing he is. Mothers Against Senseless Killing is an organization. It's Staten Island based, and our goal is to get in front of, while we are anti-violence, we are actually a proactive community group. We want to actually get ahead some of the violence, so we're not reactionary in nature. We actually want people to get involved in positive things that will make sure that the students and the young people have positive experiences, so they never are involved in anything that we have to react to. It's a proactive approach to anti-violence. And so I don't want to chew your ear off about that, but that's the organization that is sponsoring tonight's Zoom meeting, because we want to be a positive force for our communities. So without talking your ear off, as I can do, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Andre Harrison. And again, I hope that even outside of this space, you will promote the Mothers Against Senseless Killings Facebook group, because that is where we deposit a lot of positive things.
All right, thank you so much, Tanisha. Now, capable hands. I just hope I don't drop it, because then
No.
the whole thing will break. How's everybody doing? So let me just get a census about who's here. Tanisha, you mentioned earlier that many of the people here are educators already. So if you're an educator, just notate that you're an educator, you're a teacher of some form. Everyone's a teacher, teacher, teacher. What about you, Charlene, Ebony, Maria? Are you guys educators as well? And if
Teacher, junior high.
Okay.
I work in a Head Start program, so
You're
I'm
an educator?
working. Yeah, I'm working with my parents every day.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So what I had planned is to do something that targeted parents, but it looks like there's a lot of educators here. And one of the things that, we're taught is that as teachers, we should be flexible, especially during this time. So if it's okay with you guys, let's make this more of a conversation piece with educators, and let's allow this video to be open to the parents on the Mothers Against Senseless Killing YouTube page. So we'll have a discussion about remote education, remote learning, and then we'll have the video available for upload onto YouTube or on Facebook, so that parents after the fact can watch, and maybe we can help alleviate any of the stresses that some of our parents and other parents who are engaging in remote learning that they have. All right. So I guess what we can start off with is a little bit about myself. Tanisha was right. My proudest achievement in life is being a father. I am a father of 3 beautiful boys. I have a 22-year-old. I have an 18-year-old. He is Morehouse College bound for September, so he's going to Morehouse College. He's a Morehouse man, or he will be. And I have a 12-year-old. So I teach in the elementary school level. I have a son in middle school. I have a son in high school, and a son that was already in college, and he's now married. And I'm also a grandfather. My son and my daughter-in-law gave me a beautiful grandson named Malcolm. So that's my proudest achievement. So before I am a teacher, before I'm an educator, before I'm anything else, I'm a father. I'm a family man. Next, I am an elementary school teacher, presently teaching 4th grade ELA. I have I'm licensed teaching special ed. I have a gen ed license also, but I teach in special ed in an ICT classroom with an amazing co-teacher, and at PS 78 in Staten Island, New York, and Stapleton. I also, on the side, do marriage and family coaching, where I help mainly marriages who may be couples who are going through things, premarital counseling, things like that, family counseling to help families as best as I can. And I also have experience working with doing online learning. My undergrad was through online learning, so I can relate to the stresses that our students may have, and maybe some of our parents who are now teaching. Like, I can also relate in the sense that a lot of our parents, we went to school for 6 years to get our degrees to teach. Our parents had 6 days to prepare to teach our kids or their kids. So I'm pretty sure some of our parents are stressed out. And by doing this, we just wanted to help them out and share some insight. And if we have a lot of educators here, I'm pretty sure that you guys have much more knowledge than I have. And if you guys can share it, please do. This is a discussion to help parents and students navigate this remote learning space a little bit easier. All right. So the first thing we're going to start off with is a remote learning check-in. So if I'm going to open up the floor to ask anyone who would like to talk about their present remote learning experience, either are you a teacher remote teaching, or are you a parent doing remote learning with your students? And we'll open it up to whoever wants to go first.
I am actually a teacher. I teach with Mr. Harrison at PS78 as well. And yeah, basically we're working with the children and their families for the remote learning that we're out working with right now. And it's a mix. Some students are thriving, that maybe weren't thriving as much in the classroom, because there's different learning strategy.
Yeah.
But I think overall, a lot of our families and the teachers as well, I think a lot of us are it's a new venture, and we're learning every day as far as like new strategies, whether it be a YouTube video, Google Classroom. I think one thing that I'm struggling with as a teacher is just there's so many resources that I think that we are going to have awesome abilities to use going forward, but sifting through them and figuring out what works for us and the families, and what ones necessarily don't work at the moment. But we have a lot of resources, and I'm here because I want to like see how everybody is using them. You know what I mean? And like what's they're having success with, and also what how I don't know. I'm just I'm talking a lot, but yeah, that's where I'm at, I think.
Thanks, Mr. Baker. Anybody else? If you could share your present experience with remote learning. Well, I do want to acknowledge, and I think it is him, Mr. Cameron from Eagle Academy. He's my son's principal. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here. Good evening, everyone. While I was called out, simultaneously watched the MBK Zoom and be a part of this Zoom as well. But I'll just add about my experience supervising, if you will, or supporting remote learning. What I've discovered in the last, I think about 11 weeks, is that for the young men who would have been normally disengaged, if you will, in the physical setting of the classroom, we have seen, just based on just internal data that we've captured, that those are the young men that we have discovered have been the most engaged, right? And so that it's informing us differently in terms of, excuse me, as we're planning for what will be September 2020, how to possibly incorporate some of the experiences that the young men are having now in the physical building, right? So it's giving us a lot of information. It is also teaching us from an administrative standpoint, ways in which we can provide professional learning differently to educators as it relates to ensuring that we're utilizing all the strategies pertaining to digital learning, the number of hours that are recommended for on-screen time, and looking at how to engage families differently. We have also discovered that while it was something new for parents, we have seen a significant increase in the way in which our families have been engaged throughout this process. So it has its pros and certainly its cons, but we're using it as this time period as a learning experience to ensure that we're serving our community better in September.
And as a parent of a Eagle Academy scholar, one of the things that I appreciate about their approach to remote learning is that they are understanding about the student situations without minimizing the rigor. I know that because my son is encouraged to do his work, and I really appreciate Eagle Academy's approach to it. They rose to the occasion really quickly, and really got, at least I know from my personal experience, my son are ready for this transition. Anybody else?
Has anybody in the group experimented at all with collaborative work with the students within their own sibling networks? Because we have families that might have, like, say, 3 or 4 children at different grade levels. And while we teach in the classroom, we do a lot of, groupings. We do like a lot of like small group instruction. Has there been any experimenting or thoughts on like doing that? Like, a 3rd grader might be working with a 6th grade sister to kind of help with the,
Dana, you're on mute. That's okay.
Sorry. So I'm a related service provider. I'm a speech therapist, and I'm pre-K special needs. So a lot of the children that I work with, they have social issues that we're working on as well, and incorporating play. So I've been trying to encourage my parents to use their siblings as much as possible to help with that. And also for their siblings, particularly when they're older, to be models for them. I'm not sure in a more traditionally academic sense, in that regard, but I know that that's been something I've been trying to definitely encourage more.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else would like to share their who they are and their remote learning or teaching experience? Natasha?
Yes, my name is Natasha Wheeler. I'm a teacher at PS59. Before being a teacher at PS59, I was a teacher at PS16 for 11 years. So my experience is twofold. I'm a mother of two, and I'm also teaching. So it is very frustrating at times, especially in the beginning. I was really overwhelmed. I really tried to make sure that the kids had a schedule. I'm like, get up at 8 o'clock. You know, I wanted it to run just like a school day. But then that was frustrating for me because now I'm helping them and I'm trying to help my students, and then parents are calling in because they don't know how to access the materials. And then you're doing like little Google Meets or Zoom meetings with the kids to try students to try to get them to understand. So it was very overwhelming for me. And sometimes I don't understand how parents are able to teach their own children, because sometimes as a teacher, like I teach third grade, I was in third grade, so that was a definitely tricky for me. But my son that's in fifth grade, I'm like, okay, I have to go back and I have to like, okay, how do I do this again? You know, because especially if it's not a curriculum that's used to. So I really understand their frustration. And I think the relationship with the teacher, and I'm also a PTA treasurer at my school, so I hear some of the parents' gripes as well. Like some teachers are great that they will do the Zoom meetings and the Google Meets with their students, but then some teachers are not doing that because you don't have to do it. Yeah. And those are the students that are struggling, like especially some of the students with learning disabilities. They're having a hard time getting used to this type of learning. Yeah. My own two kids hate online learning, so it's like pulling teeth to get them to do what they need to do. But now in June, in week 11, it's a little easier, but they still have their gripes with it. They'd rather be in the school building with their teachers. I have that too.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Maria, did you want to share?
Yes, I'm a parent. I have a 4-year-old that's supposed to be evaluated. I have 8-year-old that she has an IEP, and I have an 11-year-old. For me, it's been horrible because if I sit with my daughter, the 8-year-old, I have no time for my 4-year-old. And as soon as I get up, I have to get up and do lunch. I have to give them breakfast. I have to make dinner. And it's really hard for me to help her, you know, because I sit there and I try to help her, but then sometimes she doesn't submit her homework. And sometimes they do the Google Classroom and everything, but it's hard. Yeah. It's hard when you have more than one kid. And my other son, he has to learn the letters and the numbers, and I sit with him, but he's used to the routine in the Head Start. Mm-hmm. And I do not have all the things that they have. Yeah. So it's hard. I don't know what to do. I really, I think my daughter is going to stay in third grade because she's not learning. I mean, we do it one day, the next day she forgot about it. Yeah. So, and then the next day they have another topic. So it's not like they do this for a whole week. Like they do in this kind of poems, the different poems, and then the next day they have a different one. And then, I don't know, I feel overwhelmed. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Well, if I can just praise you for a moment, Maria. Many of the educators here have gone through school and extensive training to be able to educate students. And you were put on the spot in a week's time to not just be a parent, but also to be a teacher to 3 students in 3 different age groups. So we not only, we feel for you, but we also want to encourage you, because the fact that you're on this call right now shows that you want your children to be successful. You want the tools and the resources necessary so that they can be successful. So first, you're doing a good job. Okay, you're doing a good job. Hang in there, and hopefully after this Zoom is done, we can offer more insight for you and more resources to help you with remote learning.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I would like to just, Maria, my name is Ashram Johnson. I'm an assistant principal over at Day Treatment Center in District 75. And I just like to say to you, Maria, because all of my students have IEPs and all of my students do require extra support throughout the day, and especially given the circumstances that we find ourselves in right now. But it's incumbent, Maria, upon those paras who are continuously working throughout this crisis to assist you in those situations. I mean, you need to really make sure that you have a conversation with the teachers initially, and then if you find that those discussions haven't led to some of the things, the changes that you would like to see happen, then maybe you need to talk to the assistant principal and explain to them some of the issues that you're having right now. There's a reason why we're continuing to, we're continuing as if we're in the conventional school system. And one of the things that would happen is that the parents would be there aiding those students in that case. So you need to make sure that you have the paraprofessionals assisting the teachers and assisting you, because you are taking on quite a bit. If you have multiple children in the system, as do many people do right now, assisting you with that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody else? We do have an agenda, but I do want to give everybody the space to speak.
I'm just going to jump in, and just pardon me, I may have to leave early because I have another Zoom meeting at like around 6:30. My name is Shirlene Arroyo. I teach at IS-27, junior high school English and global studies teacher. I am also the parent of a developmentally delayed autistic young man who is 20 years old, but he's still in high school. Well, right now he's in the hospital. So it's been, which I can definitely agree with Maria on the parental side, that it is difficult with him not even being here, but being in a hospital. I have to video with him every day and go over his work that he's doing. And then I still have my honors class and an ICT class that I have to do English and global studies with. So in talking with my students and in talking with my parents, I told them, you know, it's a matter of do the best you can. This is the first time that any of us are going through this. And, you know, as long as I see that my kids are logging on and they're trying their best, there's not going to be any penalty. We're trying to do the best that we can to go day by day and get through this. And then to see where our plans are headed, even for summer school in September. And I definitely, I was Zooming with my kids, and then there was an issue with DOE with Zoom. So now I do Google Meets with my kids. And it's not even so much for, you know, teaching them. It's not so much for teaching them. I like to connect with them on a personal level. How are you guys doing? You know, is everyone okay? You know, is everyone, because a lot of these kids have people that have passed away. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Grandparents or whatever, maybe a parent or aunt or uncle, whatever. It's also the emotional and the social way that this whole thing is affecting these children. So my kids know I got to get to each and every one of them, and I split my classes up so that we have that time to communicate with one another. Yes, the work is important. Yes, it is. Not saying that it's not, but as long as they are trying their best, that's all I ask for. And I also have changed up the curriculum as far as the ELA and even the global studies, because a lot of them are having very difficult times with accessing the work. So I try to do, you know, give them something that I know they'll benefit from based on our curriculum, where we would be at the time. And I bring outside resources in for them. If it's reading, you know, comprehension, or if it's whatever, compare and contrast, different things that I know they're still getting the skills, but on a not such, maybe on a more simplistic level as far as the amount of what they have to do. And then I'll tell them, okay, well, today's Friday, so I'm not going to give you anything today. If any of you guys have work that you have to make up that you didn't do during the beginning of the week, we're going to take Friday to make up that work. I don't think it's beneficial to make it so, oh, they got to do this, they got to do this. No. We're all going through a difficult time right now. And so I just asked them, do the best you can, reach out to me. We have our meetings, email me any issues. And I'm trying to make it, as easy as possible for them until we get over this hump, because I do state to them that it's temporary. It's not going to be forever. And even if we don't get back to the way things were and if there's a change, we'll adjust to it and we'll get through it. So I haven't really had many issues with my classes per se. And then, well, my son is a whole different story because he's got a whole different amount of mental challenges. You know what I mean? He has paranoia and anxiety. He has a lot of different things. But even him, and being that he's in the hospital, he's been in the hospital well over 7 months now. So he's like getting frustrated of being in one room, not being able to go anywhere, do anything. So I have to make it my business to get to him every day also. It has been a struggle, but what I want to come out of saying this whole thing with is that I encourage my parents not to worry about their grades. As long as they're, putting in the time, as long as it, because I don't perceive myself failing anyone. As long as I see, because I take their attendance every day, I have to have them fill out an attendance sheet every day. I see who's logging in, who's not logging in. If I haven't seen them log in for a certain amount of time, then I make phone calls. A lot of them, the parents don't speak English. So then I have to get my colleague who maybe speaks Spanish or Arabic or whatever it is, find out what's going on. Some of them, they didn't have the devices. So then we go and we get them the devices, or we tell them where to go to get the devices and see. Right now we're in a place where we've never been before. So to go in on them and go crazy on them, it doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't make sense. And that's all I have to say. We have to try to be as patient as possible and, kind to the parents. One thing I can say, I don't think I've ever gotten as much gratification or as many props in my whole life. Like they say, like, how do you do this every day? I have my 1 or I have my 2 or my 3. You have like 150 every day. I said, hey, it's just in us. Some of us are teachers, it's in us. It's what we do. It's what we love to do. And when you love to do something. So I just want to say that I'm going to leave you guys because I have another Zoom meeting. But thank you for having me. And I wish all you guys the best in moving forward.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. So what I want to try to do is, I thank you everybody else for joining us. I want to try to get moving on with the agenda. There's a couple of talking points that we wanted to address. And before I do that, last time I checked, the Mothers Against Senseless Killing Facebook page had 495 members. Let's see if we can get it to at least 500 today. Ms. Tanisha Franks put the link inside the chat. If you don't mind clicking that chat, joining the Facebook organization, and let's see if we can get it to 500 by the end of this Zoom. All right. So there's a couple of talking points I wanted to really address to help parents during this time of remote learning. The first talking point is creating a stress-free learning environment. A stress-free learning environment. As teachers, one of the things that we are encouraged to work on by our administration is our classroom and our students' learning environment, how the classroom looks aesthetically, or the atmosphere of the classroom. And that's something that parents can probably do to help create a less stress-free or a stress-free environment inside their homes. Now, it's going to be stressful. Let's get that out of the way. There's going to be a level of stress. Students have been conditioned from the time they enter pre-K to receive explicit modeled instruction when it comes to learning. And now they are learning independently for the most part using a computer. So for your students, as stressful as it is, and as parents, we want our kids to get it, right? When Gabriel comes downstairs and he asks me, Dad, I don't get this. It takes a lot for me to say, well, what do you mean you don't get it? It's obvious. It's common sense. And then I create a more stressful space for him. We got to try to create a stress-free learning environment. And one of the things that you can do from home is create some kind of routine for your child. Create a routine that your child can do daily, so that eventually it's automatic and it's something that they do. Great teachers create classroom routines from the very beginning. I remember my first year teaching, I wasn't taught how to create classroom routines, and I didn't get that down pat until maybe my second year teaching. But then when I was able to do it, I realized how easy and less stressed I was as a teacher because the students knew the routine. If you're home, if you create a routine for your children, that may help create a more stress-free learning environment for your student. And teachers, if there's anything that you would like to add, you're more than welcome to chime in on this as well. It helps allow the students to automatically, go throughout their day without having to think about really what's happening next, because they already know what to expect next time around. So creating routines in your home may help. Sorry about that. Also, do not put on your shoulders the pressure of being a master teacher. Don't stress yourself out about whether or not your students is getting a 100 average. What's important is that as I think Shireen said earlier, that they get the skills that they need, especially right now. They get the skills that they need to be able to move forward. Right now, it's all about skill building. Dana, did you want to chime in?
Just before, when we were talking about the visual schedule, the schedules and everything, and having a routine, for younger children in particular, I do definitely implement like more visual schedules for them, so they always have it where there's something that they have to look at. With that, then I've kind of, for a lot of my parents, they don't have printers available at home. So I've kind of gotten to the thing where I'll make the schedule and I'll tell them maybe screenshot it and then show it to them within like a few minute increments, so they have time to like mentally prepare beforehand and everything along those lines.
Well, I guess, and if I can piggyback on that, maybe 10 minutes before you're going to transition with your students at home, let them know, all right, in about 10 minutes, we're going to do this next. And that would help. Okay. So that's pretty much what you was also alluding to as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That will work as well. Okay. Anybody else wanted to chime in before we move on? All right. Also, so I said before, also, don't put that pressure to be a master teacher. You're a parent first. Remember that you're a parent first. Be the best parent you can be. Model that with your students and with your children, and help guide them and teach them afterwards. Okay. When your child has a hard time understanding, model for them and then give them opportunity to practice. Don't pressure your child to be right all the time. The beautiful thing about being wrong is that they can process what they did wrong in order to get it right the next time. So don't be upset if your child gets the wrong answer. In fact, a lot of cases, that's a good thing, because they can process how they got it wrong, so that when they ask the same question again, or it's time to apply a skill the next time, they're able to, because they already went through the process of getting it wrong. How many of us have done things wrong so many times, and then eventually we did it wrong enough times that we got it right? So let's not be afraid to allow our children to get things wrong or to mess things up. It's okay, because that's how they build it back together and get it right. Okay. If they get it wrong, allow them to process it, think it through, and get it right the next time. So do not stress yourself out about whether or not your child gets an answer right or wrong. Positively frame your direction. So if they do get something wrong, say, hey, nice try. You gave it your best shot. It's not right. So now what can we do to make sure you get it right the next time? Or what did you do that allowed you not to get the answer right? Or can you find your error? Let's see if you can find your error and go about it that way, and positively frame it, and encourage them using optimistic language. Oh man, you got it wrong, but you gave it your best shot. Where did you get it wrong? Okay, so let's start there and let's move to the next step, and maybe together we can get through this and get the right answer.
Right.
Okay.
It's definitely that's been a challenge Mr. Harrison too. Like, I get a lot of students that, even parents that'll contact me and say like, you know, like they're failing or like, oh, I don't get it. And like, sometimes they almost give up. And I think it was Maria may have mentioned about that one of her children might have to like repeat the grade, but like you're saying though, it's not, don't worry about that. Like exactly like you're saying, like, it's just, we learn best by making mistakes, and nobody knows how to do this right now. And yeah, I like building off of failure, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think that's the best way that we can really teach our kids. Like students don't come in automatically learning and knowing everything. I mean, they don't know it all. And if they get it right, we sort of expect it, you know, and if they get it wrong, we're able to teach them what steps to make or to take so that they can get it right the next time. All right. So don't stress out if your child doesn't get the right answer. You know, be easy, relax, let them process it through and guide them through it. Okay. And use optimistic language when you do it. Also, take frequent brain breaks. This is not just for your student. This is for you as well. Okay. Take brain breaks. So Dana says, failure is an opportunity to begin again, only this time more wisely. Very, very true, Dana. Thank you for sharing that. Take frequent brain breaks throughout the day. I know in my class, we do that also. So from every 45 minutes, we'll stop, we'll take a brain break. We'll do some kind of activity where we're moving. We're not thinking so much about the work. We may do some breathing exercises. And there's resources online right now that I think are for free temporarily if you're doing some remote learning from home. I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see some of the things. And one of my most favorite resources is YouTube. Now, if you was to search brain breaks, for kids, right? Here are videos that you can actually play with your child to help them just break from the day.
Yep.
Less stress, or if you see them getting stressed out, let's take a break, son. Let's take a break, daughter. And let's just do something to get us moving. Let's do some breathing exercises. So YouTube is an amazing resource for things like this. Okay? I don't know about you, but as a teacher, I sort of rely on YouTube a lot. So it helps me out a lot. You can YouTube brain breaks. There's a resource here, weareteachers.com, brain breaks for kids, where they have 50 educational brain breaks that you can actually use with your child at home. Okay. This is an all-time favorite for elementary school teachers. Go Noodle.
There you go.
Okay. Go Noodle. And what's funny about this, parents, you're laughing because you know, Dana. What's funny about this, parents, is it doesn't matter if your child is in pre-K or if they're in the 5th grade.
Yep.
When you put on a Go Noodle video, they love it. No matter what, they'll sing along. And in fact, you'll notice that if you was to put almost any video up on Go Noodle, there's a huge possibility that your child has already been exposed to it, and they will sing it as you're playing it. So this is a great option. This is one of my favorites. They have categories here where you can do SEL and mindfulness, sensory motor skills, movement type of brain breaks. This is a great resource for you. And another favorite of mine is Kahoot. Kahoot. They have a free service where you can play a game. If you have a laptop, you have a cell phone, and your child has the school-issued iPad or school-issued laptop, you can compete with them in a fun game. They have educational games, and they also have games where you quizzes and questionnaires about things like the Avengers or Fortnite or Avatar, things like that. So this will allow them to just take a break a little bit from the stress of work. It'll help you as a parent and your students be less stressed throughout the day, and they help the remote learning experience for yourself as well. Did anybody want to add to that? All right. Okay.
I was just going to echo the whole YouTube thing, because, I mean, not only could it be a brain break, but they can actually learn stuff. Because, I mean, I know I learned how to garden, I learned how to do video editing, anything. So I always tell my students, you have a question about something and nobody can answer it, you could type right in there, like, how do birds fly? And there's a video on it for sure, and that'll help their brains continue to grow with new material, new information.
Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. Something that I do with my son, Mr. Cameron, just don't embarrass him with this if you don't mind. We'll do like a midday dance party. So about 12 o'clock, I'll put on Spotify throughout all the Google Home speakers, and we'll just do a quick, 2-3 minute dance party to a song that of our choosing. A lot of times it's soca music, but we'll just dance real quick, and then we get right back to work, just to alleviate the stress in the house. So there's a lot of things that you can do to help alleviate the stress. Take brain breaks frequently. It helps out, especially if you're a parent, you've never done this before. This will help you out as well.
With I'm sorry.
Yeah.
With YouTube as well, there's also a lot of like transitionary songs. Like we were talking about doing transitioning to new things as well. Lori Breckner, I think her name is, does a lot of them for things like washing hands, which is pertinent right now, for just going to the next activity, for getting ready for a read aloud. There's a lot of ones that you can find with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, another thing, parents, I wanted to address. So we talked about creating a stress-less learning environment. The next thing I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about is being flexible with the schedule. Flexibility is important right now because this is something that you've never thought you had to embark on. Being a parent and also being the main teacher for your child is not something that you thought would happen, but we're in it now. And being flexible allows for less rigidity in any situation. And that's the opposite, just being flexible. Outside of teacher-guided video, give your child a schedule of their choosing. So if you know that your teacher is going to meet at a specific time on a specific day, I would encourage you to have your child be in that video meeting. If your school allows you to have, let's say, your assignments due by 9 p.m. on that day, sit down with your child, whether they're in first grade or fifth grade or 12th grade, sit down with them and say, okay, you have assignments due every day at 9 p.m. You also have your video instruction with your teacher every day at this specific time. What time works best for you so that you can do your work and still feel like you have your life to live, pretty much? And give them that power, give them that opportunity to speak for themselves about what they want to do, when they want to do it, and encourage them to hold to it. I know that, and we want to make sure that we maintain routines, but when things get stressed out, when we get stressed out about learning, we want to be able to be flexible as well. Did you want to add something? I think somebody just unmuted their mic. All right, cool. Okay. Plan out your day and encourage your students to go by their schedule. It's their choosing. You've given your student the power to make that choice. So now encourage them to do that. It also helps foster independence. As teachers, we're not there in the home with you guys to sort of do that explicit modeling all the time. So your students are sort of, leaning on more independent learning. Giving them that opportunity to create their own schedule will allow them to have a sense of independence in their learning. And it may help the learning experience be a little better as well. And if you're having a hard time, don't be afraid to ask for extensions. Okay, don't be afraid to ask for extensions. That means that calling up the teacher or sending them a message. There's a lot going on right now. We have a lot of work due. We weren't able to complete it. Would it be okay if we have a 24-hour extension? And talk to your kids about that as well, because when they get into college, trust me, there's going to come a time when they will not be able to hand in an assignment on time. They're going to have to ask for an extension. So don't be afraid to ask for an extension. The worst the teacher can say is no. Submit it anyway. So ask for an extension. And if you see your child is overwhelmed, allow your child to turn off the screen and do an activity of their choosing. Being behind the screen all day is not healthy for anybody, for anyone. And me, I think I thrive in the remote learning experience, the remote teaching experience. But I also know that being behind a screen all day is not good for me as well. Taking breaks helps me be less stressed. So see if your child, when you notice that they're getting overwhelmed, encourage them to take a break. Close the laptop, Pac-Man it. Turn off that screen. Let's do something. It's getting nice out. Get your mask on and go for a walk around the block a couple of times. Of course, practicing safe distance and social distancing because we don't want anybody getting sick. All right. So do that. Turn off the screen and see what they would like to do and do it with them as well. Okay. Would anybody like to add anything? Any of the teachers in the room that would like to add to that?
I have a question, please.
Sure.
Yes, I'm Cheryl McMillan. I'm a retired teacher of about a year now, and wow, just missing all of this. However, I'm also a grandmother, and I have a friend who is a grandmother, and she's quite overwhelmed. She has 2 children who have IEPs, and her daughter isn't necessarily participating in the children's education, and there's a lot that's going on. But how do you encourage her? Now, she's a grandma, and she's at least my age, and she's struggling. What do you say? Now, one of the things she did say, she told the teacher that she really couldn't do this. She's confused, and she felt like the teacher kind of said, well, that you're on your own. This is what you got to do. If you don't do it, then there's nothing else we can do. How can you help with that? Thank you.
Okay. So and I'm just going to say it again so that I'm clear. You have a friend who is helping their grandchild with remote learning. They have an IEP, which means that they're receiving special education services. I don't know what the IEP says. It would be easier to see what the IEP says to guide you a little bit better. But we do know that they have an IEP, so they're receiving special education services. When your friend spoke to the teacher said that it is what it is. They have to do this independently, and pretty much left you to your own vices to manage everything in the home when it comes to remote learning. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I don't know the teacher, and I'm just speaking from what I know. And there's some teachers here that have way more experience than I, and maybe one of the administrators in the call can chime in as well. But if they have an IEP, the IEP, regardless if they're home, that plan still has to be followed. It has to be followed. So if she has access to the IEP, my recommendation is that she reads the IEP, see if she can get understanding about the services that her grandchild is getting, and then talk to the teacher. Because if you know what you're talking about, and if you have that document, which is a legal document in front of you, and explain to the teacher that this is what my child is supposed to be getting, they're not getting it, and I expect for them to get it, remote learning or not, we are mandated to provide that service for the student. So that's, I guess, would be my first recommendation, to go to the IEP, see what the IEP says, and then go back to the teacher and say, either my student is getting the service, and I still need further assistance, or my student is not getting the service, and I don't want to say be strong in your voice about it, but let them know, because my child is mandated to receive these services legally, you're obligated to give it to them. So I would appreciate it if you do.
And sometimes, Mr. Harrison, what I've noticed with situations similar is sometimes, like I've experienced where, like, a student that I'm working with, whether they have an IEP or not, there may be a breakdown as far as the lines of communication. Yeah. Like I even had a student recently I couldn't get a hold of this child. And I'm like, she was having trouble with school. I'm like, what is going on? And what I looked at was that the actual phone number on record, 2 numbers were flipped. So all of a sudden, there was this line of communication that was splintered. Yeah. And then once you figured out that 2 numbers that were flipped, it was like, oh, let's talk. And all of a sudden, everything worked out. And I think that if the families are having a problem on their end, try to reach out. And that might be a simple thing of like, oh, you've got my number down wrong. Or the schools are doing the same thing, hopefully. And sometimes that's it. But again, if there is a problem, like you said, where the teacher is completely like, I'm out, that is a much larger problem.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to damage the child's educational progress. But sometimes we can look at the small steps, and that ends up being a great leap for progress.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else wanted to chime in on that?
Yeah, I'll chime in as well, Mr. Harrison. In addition to what was stated, and also in addition to the IEP that the student has, when we entered this remote learning space, each case manager, if you will, needed to have developed a remote learning plan as an addendum to the IEP. And parents needed to be made aware of the continuous support that that scholar with an IEP should be receiving in this remote learning space, right? So the parent should be empowered to hold that teacher accountable for such. And I'd even say from an administrative standpoint, I think if having speaking to the teacher several times and you're still not getting any assistance, I think it'll be a good time to engage the parent coordinator if there is one, right? And then if nothing is being resolved there, then invite the assistant principal if there's one in the conversation, and then ultimately the principal, right? Because we're all in this space mandated to still provide as best as we can the same services had we been in the brick and mortar school. So I think for that parent, I think the best advice is to ensure that the ladder of referral is being followed so that that scholar is not left without any further learning loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and hopefully that was helpful. Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, I'd just like to add to that. As someone who spent a great deal of my career in the private sector, I'm accustomed to a philosophy that the customer is always right. And I came into the world of education with that deeply embedded in my beliefs. And in my opinion, the parents represent the customers, the parents and the students represent our customers. And there's just absolutely no excuse for a teacher. I don't know if it was said directly or even implying that this is something you have to do on your own. We can't help you. Because if we were in a brick and mortar building, I doubt if that would have passed muster. So I agree with Mr. Cameron that you really need to reach out beyond the teacher, at a certain point in time. And this is not to criticize the teacher. Obviously, the teacher has perhaps reached a point where they feel a little frustrated themselves. But the idea that we are simply allowing this parent to, twist in the wind is something that I can't accept, as an administrator. So I would certainly ask that you speak to, the administrator in school and just sort of reiterate what the issues are, what you feel is bothering you. Not in the sense that you want to, have any punitive harm come to this teacher, but in a way that's showing your concern for your grandchild, that you're concerned about the fact that they may not be receiving the services or the education or the support that they need at this point in time, and you need help.
So,
if I could just add also, I don't know what the IEP looks like as well either, but many times on an IEP, it's not just, the teacher and the child, there's a child study team. And if there are other people in the meantime while this process is going on who can provide support, like for myself, I'm a speech therapist. if there's an occupational therapist, there's other people who can continue to support I'm sorry, there's a garbage truck behind me, who may be able to provide support in the intermedium.
to make it happen will be uploaded on the link that Nicole Myers, hi Nicole, posted in the chat. That's the link for the Mothers Against Senseless Killing Facebook page. We have a new member, LaShawn. Thank you so much for joining. But if you can click that and join the Mothers Against Senseless Killing mask on Facebook to get further information. Also, to be able to view this video afterwards. It'll be, hopefully we can make it a public video so that you can share out to any parents you may know that can benefit from this information.
Thank you.
All right. And lastly, I do want to talk about something that is important to me, and that's that emotional intelligence is as important as academic intelligence. Sometimes children could be pressured to perform at an elite academic level that they emotionally break down and they can't, function anymore. We add so much pressure on students that we don't offset it with skills, emotional skills that they may need to balance in order to be successful academically at a high level. So today, right now, we're just going to talk a little bit about how emotional intelligence is as important as academic intelligence. As your student is home and they're doing remote learning, provide an opportunity to teach them about resilience through academics. How this will look is if your child is getting stressed out about academics and they can't get it. And I say that because I know kids, one of them live in my house, that when they do fun activities, they get frustrated. An example of that is video games. My son can play Fortnite and he's supposed to be having fun. And then all of a sudden he has an emotional outbreak and he's yelling at somebody he's playing with and saying unseemly things. And I have to go up there and I tell him, son, it doesn't look like you're having fun. How can you handle yourself a little better? And he doesn't want to get off the video game, but he has to get off the video game. And we're going to process how he can, manage his emotions a little bit better. And I would stand there and watch him play and see him practice that. So I would say allow for opportunity to teach your children about resilience when it comes to being stressed out or being emotionally elevated when they come into contact with academic challenges. Okay, so teach them about how to manage their stress, how to self-cope, how to develop self-coping methods when they are stressed out. In the classroom, we have students who at times get frustrated because they cannot pronounce a word and they get angry at themselves. And what we do is we teach them self-coping methods to allow them to independently be able to see a challenging academic task and be able to decompress, self-regulate, relax, become clear-headed and level-headed in order to meet that challenge. So emotional intelligence will allow your students to meet academic challenges in a better way. And if anybody else want to chime in, you're more than welcome to. Teach your students self-coping methods that will help them deal with academic stress. Allow space for your child to verbally express how they are feeling. Allow them to verbally express how they're feeling, what's frustrating them. Even if it's a time where they just need to vent. They spent all week doing work and they found out that when they were given this remote exam, they failed it, they're angry. Allow them to process that, be that space where they can vent. And how I say it, and this is in life in general, all of us need windows to vent to, because when it gets too hot, we'll, collapse. We all need windows that we can vent to. Your children need windows that they can vent to. And you can be a window at this time of stress. And if you have a good teacher that is in your corner, a good administrator that's in your corner, as a parent, you can call them and vent to them as well and say, I'm trying my best. This is stressful. My child is stressed out. Is there anything that you can do or any advice you can give that would allow me to help my student cope better when it comes to academic challenges? We go through it in the classroom, so there's no way we can expect that you're not going to go through it at home. Let's teach our children how to self-cope when they come up with academic challenges. And also, and this is the last subpoint in this topic, have emotional check-ins throughout the day. If you know your child is working for a couple of hours on a remote activity or a remote assignment, knock on the door, invite them into your room and say, hey, how's it going? Do you need a break? How are you feeling? How is this assignment making you feel? Is there anything that you need to express right now? Allow them that space to be able to share, be that window that they can vent to, because what we don't want our children to do during this remote learning time is to burn out and collapse. We want to see our kids healthy and happy when they finally come back to us in September. All right. So if there's anything that we can do as teachers, we want to be there to support you. We want to be there to guide you, to hold your hand, and to be an assistance in any way we can possible. All right. That's it for the agenda today. If there are any other educators on the panel or in the Zoom that would like to add something that you think I may have missed or that would add to it, you're more than welcome to now. The floor is open to you.
May I just say something?
Yes.
I guess you can see my name, but
Yeah.
did not
I was,
want to.
yeah, I was going to say hi. How
Hi.
you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I'm going to speak in a roundabout way because you just said this is going to be made public. And although I'm open and honest about certain things,
Yeah.
I do not want my children's business to be out there because
Absolutely.
them. So I have two children. One is in elementary school and one is in high school. I'm so glad this is happening. And I wish that it would have happened earlier, sooner. But I'm glad it's happening now because I was one of those parents. I was somewhat frustrated. I had my days, and I actually wrote a post on Facebook about it. And it was like a call to action because I work in the school system. I'm not a teacher, but I work in an after school program. So I work with the children when it comes to homework and activities like that. And I see them struggling. So, and I know that there were children that were struggling. And even though I'm the type of parent that's hands-on, I myself was struggling. And even though I'm resourceful, I was still struggling. So that I know that if I'm the type of parent that goes out and I try to seek help for my children, what happens to the parents and the children who don't know how to go out and seek help and who do not have the laptop or, the things that they need for their children. So with that being said, there's certain things that my youngest child gets in school that it was never even mentioned about him receiving in remote learning. And I was frustrated about it. And I also found out that there were also schools that were having instruction. And I am aware that children learn differently. And some children may thrive in the school setting and some children may thrive in the home setting. But I think it's something that should have been offered to the children. Even if I don't know how it works, but I think it's something that should have been offered. And if they weren't able to do so for whatever reason, then they were able just to do the packet and do the work. I'm going to speak about my high schooler. He was thriving at first, but now, I'm sorry, I'm emotional, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
He's crashing and burning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's lost. He was so happy. And I even had to tell him, like, don't be so happy that you're in school, that you're not in the building, that you're home, because it's I don't want to come across as that you're happy that Corona's happening, but he was thriving at home. But he said he felt that he was receiving so much work. Like he said, it's like he wouldn't be receiving this much schoolwork in school. And I was like, I didn't agree with that. But he did say he felt like it was a lot and we were going back and forth. And I'm very headstrong. I'm a very strong parent, and certain things I'm just like, no, we have to get this done. It needs to be done. And even though I'm aware of the softer side of talking to him in a particular way, when you know that your child is not doing the best that they can and you don't want them to fall behind, sometimes you become frustrated. And as a parent, I've been frustrated with him. So I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But he was I don't even think he's doing his homework anymore. I don't think he's doing his work at all. Okay. Because he felt it was too much. And he was like, I'm not doing it anymore. So I'm trying to keep him motivated. And I'm glad that this happened. I wish a lot more parents were here so they could hear the tools that were given to them. Mm-hmm. And even though I've been a parent for a long time, I'm glad that I was here to learn different things on how I can relate to my children. Yeah. And help them through this process, because it's hard on them and it's also hard on us, but we're adults. We can get through this, but hopefully, I know children are resilient, but they have issues that they go through as well. So thank you for this.
Arisha, you're doing a good job because you also, you raised an older daughter as well.
Yes.
Yep, and she's doing good.
Yes.
And like she's one of my babies.
Yes.
Yeah, she's one of my babies. So
yes.
So I personally speaking, I know you have everything that it takes. But advocate for your son and get in touch with the teachers at his school.
Mm-hmm.
And teach him to advocate for himself as well.
That's an issue.
Yeah. Teach him to advocate, or maybe you can, like, now's the time that you can model it. So have him come in the room with you as you speak to the teacher, and model for him how he should advocate for himself when it comes to this. Because if we go into September the same way, we want him to be prepared. We want to be ready for that. We're not sure exactly what's going to happen in September. The way it looks, they may continue remote learning, and we don't want him to fall too far behind. But if we can get him to advocate for himself, and again, that'll also help foster his independence, because learning from home and remote learning is really rich in independent learning.
Yes.
And independent experience. Teaching him how to advocate for himself teaches him independence. It empowers him to say, my education is important to me. I need to be able to advocate for myself academically, or talk to my teachers about what I need to be successful in this class. And that may help him out. That may help him. But you're doing a good job. Keep it up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. Before I go any further, please remember to go to the Mothers Against Senseless Killing Facebook page and join that page, because they have a lot of great resources. They do a lot in the community. Mothers Against Senseless Killing. And I think now is a good time to join that organization on Facebook, considering the scope of what's happening recently in our nation, to be informed and to know what's happening with the organization. Okay. So it is now 7:10. We're 10 minutes past the hour, but I do want to thank everyone for joining. Mr. Cameron for joining us as well and giving us your expertise. Mr. Cameron means a lot to me and my son, because he knows my son very well, and my son could be hard-headed and strong-willed. And they really do a good job there at Eagle Academy with the young men, and my son's a testament to that. So publicly, I'm saying thank you, Mr. Cameron, for your service to my kids. I appreciate it. Thank you, Tanisha Franks, for allowing me to lead this discussion, and to the work that Mothers Against Senseless Killing is doing around the region and in Staten Island specifically. We appreciate the work that you're doing, Dana. I don't want to Königsberg.
Actually, you were way closer than most people.
Okay, good. I want to thank you for your insight also, and giving us that the insight from the pre-K level as well. We appreciate that. Maria, for sharing your heart, and if there's anything that the organization can do to help support you, they will. For Rashida, for being open and transparent. Thank you so much. And to any parents that are watching this afterwards, we hope that this information helps you out. If you need to reach anybody on the panel or ask any questions, I'm pretty sure that you can leave a message on the Mask Facebook page, and somebody will get back to you. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us in this discussion. Hopefully it helped. And let's keep the conversation going, because we want all our children to be successful during this remote learning experience. Have a good night, and until next time.